that. Okay. Anybody else? Who else is so if you think problem solving is something that you are quite good at, can you give me a thumbs up as well? Just generally, it does not have to be work related. Okay, thank you, Lucy. All right. So thank you, Fair. Today's session is going to be a little bit of me talking and also interacting. So there'll be we're going to be doing, we'll discuss the theory of it, of problem solving. We'll also talk about steps to problem solving, and then we'll use a case study to walk us through those steps. And at the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A period. So to kick us off, I want us to first fill in this quick poll. So I'm going to put the link in the chat section just now. So can you quickly click on the link and answer the poll, fill in the poll. I'm waiting for your responses.
It's a Google form that we're seeing.
Yes, that's where the poll is. I was trying to look for something that would be really easy for people to just click, and this seems like it's so. So to people who have just joined, and we're just starting the webinar, just getting right into the main webinar, and please click on the link in the chat section to fill in the quick poll. I want to get the feedback first before we get into it. So I'm just pinning it now. Okay. Okay, we've got some responses. Hi, so to those who just joined, can you click on the link to answer the question? It's a poll to just start. And it's me trying to understand where we are at and what part of problem solving that we're struggling with the most. So most of us right now are saying measuring success. So some people aligning stakeholders, figuring out root causes. Okay. So I'll wait for, we've got 6 responses. I'll wait for, say, 3 more, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Okay. So today we're going to cover the definition, like I mentioned, and that's the first thing we'll be jumping straight into. Problem solving is a strategic application of techniques combined with critical and creative thinking to overcome challenges that an organization encounters in delivering its product or services to both their internal clients, which are stakeholders, and also external clients, the people that they're serving. So based on that, what does strategic application of techniques mean? In business analysis, or generally in business, organizations use several techniques like root cause analysis, 5 whys, fishbone diagrams, process mapping, SWOT analysis. All of these techniques are out there. But then how do you know which one to use or apply when it comes to solving the problem that you're facing? So having the skill to really select the best one, the framework that is best, is part of the things that is very important for us as professionals. So you want to pick the right technique. You're not just picking one of the many, you're picking the right one. Then critical and creative thinking. So it says combined with critical and creative thinking. Critical means being objective. You're skeptical of assumptions and you're being analytical. You're not just going with your gut feelings. You're trying to ensure that you're gathering the right data and you're addressing the right problem. And the creative part means being open to new perspectives, new ideas, and innovative solutions that could address the problems that the business is facing or some stakeholders are facing. Now, at the core of business analysis, problem solving is our mission to help organizations that we work with or companies that we're running function better, whether it is for improved customer service or it's for improved, to enhance internal operations. So that's why it is key for us to be able to know the best way, the right steps to address problems and ensure that we are solving the right problems. Why is this important to us? So this was kind of tailored to business analysts, but I understand that some of us are not business analysts. And in any career that you're in or in anything that you're doing, problem solving is at the heart of what we do, is at the heart of what any company is doing. Any organization, if you're selling a product, you want to solve the problems of your customers. So it is very core. And we've also found out that when you misdiagnose a problem, it costs more time and money. So you're solving the wrong problems. You've put so much effort and time and money into a particular thing, but you later find out that it is not the right thing. It's not the right problem that you're addressing. And then another reason why it's very important for us to address this is because it builds credibility with your stakeholders. So it helps you to gain their trust. It positions you as a strategic advisor, not just someone who is taking notes, but also helps you to um, mediate conflicts and find consensus in tense situations. Now, what is the pathway to problem solving that we're discussing? The first step is you want to identify the problem. What is the real problem? Not what are people saying, or not what you feel like people are saying, but what is the problem? The second step is investigating the root cause. So they mentioned the problem, you figured out what the problem is, but what is causing this problem exactly? The next thing is to identify potential solutions that could address that problem that you've identified. And afterwards, you validate and implement the solution. And the final one, which is something that we often, skip on, is measuring success, measuring results. So you've found out the problem, you've investigated the root cause, you've developed a potential solution, validated it, okay, it's good, you're already implementing a solution. But then what happens later on? We need to also factor in measuring results, measuring how how well we've actually met our goals, KPIs, and all that um on the problem that we're trying to solve. So now we're going to go into the case study. So like I mentioned, we'll be working through a case study example today. Um, the background, a mid-sized company. So let's picture this. And if you can, take a screenshot or a picture with your phone if you're joining on your computer, because we're going to be using this case study throughout the webinar today. So a mid-sized company is facing repeated delays in its employee onboarding process. And the expected onboarding time is 5 days, but in practice, it's taking 3 to 4 weeks. Now, stakeholders have complained to you, and this is what they're saying. HR is saying, we're always chasing tasks manually, nothing is standard. IT is saying, we often find out about new hires too late to prep equipment. New joiners are saying, I started without a laptop or system access. I just waited. And manager said, our teams lose productivity for weeks with every new hire. So this is the case study that we're working with. It's really simple. Um, excuse me. So I want to ask everyone, can just put ideas in the chat or unmute yourself, please. What name should we call this mid-sized company? What name should we give this startup? Someone please generate a name. I'll be using this name throughout the call. Or I'll call on someone if nobody talks. Okay. Let me call on someone. Ifeoluwa, please give us a name. A name for a mid-sized company.
I can't think of a name now.
Okay, pick someone then. Pick someone to say for you.
Earth solution.
What did you say?
Earth solution. I'm trying to solution.
Did you say health solution? Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay. Oluchi, did you say is this the name for this for the company? Hertz. Oh, Hertz Solution. Oh, okay, okay, good. Okay, so everyone, we have a name for our company now. It's called Hertz Solutions. All right, so Hertz Solutions is facing this problem, and we as BAs, we want to help them reach, at least move forward in solving this problem today. So the first step we talked about, does anyone remember? What was the first step in the pathway?
Identify the problem.
Absolutely. Identify the problem. Thank you. So this identifying the problem, it's to it's recognizing what has gone wrong. What are our users, customers, or stakeholders? What are they experiencing without jumping to conclusions? IBA says that it involves understanding the current state, recognizing that a problem exists, and then defining it in a way that guides the analysis of potential solutions. Now, I want you to understand that identifying the problem is not solving it yet. It's about asking the right questions to get a clear view of what is wrong. I'm sorry, this slide is a little text heavy because I would like to share this slides after the call. But what I'm trying to do here is make us understand that identifying the problem is stating what the problem is. And how do we go about this? There are different techniques we can engage through, stakeholder interviews, um, CPOC diagrams. I don't know if you've heard of CPOC before, but it is a particular way to document, who the supplier of a process is, the inputs, the process itself, the outputs, clients, customers, other internal or external stakeholders. So this is a way to kind of document all of that. There, you can also use surveys, questionnaires, document analysis, process observation, and walkthrough. So these are the different techniques you can use. But how do you go about it? First, you want to engage your stakeholders. You want to find out who is the people that are affected by the issue or involved with the issue, and what is their experience with the current issue. You want to speak with them. You need to tailor your technique based on the type of stakeholders that you're engaging. So one time I was working with a team. They had already received feedback from different stakeholders in the organization, and they knew they needed to address the situation. So I started with first identifying who the members of the team were. After I did that, I had one meeting to discuss with all of them. And after the meeting, I was able to see that, okay, some people were not talking, some people were not engaging as I needed them to. So I created surveys and I also asked them for any documents that they'd been using in their team by themselves. And this gave me more insight into how best to engage the stakeholders and also into the problem that they were facing. So you want to engage your stakeholders and use the right techniques for them. Then you analyze the current situation, current state. That is looking at the real workflow. How are they currently doing things? What are the behaviors? What are the outcomes? You want to, gather all of these things together because then you're not just relying on what they have said or your gut feeling, but you're looking at facts, you're looking at data. And that leads me to the next point that you want to avoid assumptions. Assumptions is no if we just go with whatever we think that the situation is, we're setting ourselves up for failure. So you want to ensure that you're looking at the real facts of the situation, not just relying on a symptom, a, a symptom of, let's say they're saying that the time is all we're spend always spending too much time on this particular with this particular team before they get things done. That is why you always start spending too much time. That's just an assumption of like so many things that could be happening. They could say, oh, it's because one person is always late to work. That's an assumption. What is the core problem there? So you want to really ensure that you're not relying on what people are just saying peripherally, but you also like looking down into the what the data is saying concerning the problem, which is like process maps and documents, like I mentioned. Then the final thing is draft a problem statement. So I'm sure we're all familiar with problem statements, right? It's very short, but it is clear and it is focused on the actual issue. It's not focused on the solution or the cause of the problem, but it is talking about where things are actually going wrong, who it affects, and why it matters. So let's look at one example or um, how to frame problem statements. There are two templates that I'm sharing here. So the first one here is you write your problem statement in such a way that affected group is experiencing slash issue, which is causing a particular negative impact due to um, evidence or observation that you have now, gathered. So that is one way to write your problem statements. And remember, you're not just writing problem statements based on what you think is the problem. You've already gathered your data from like the stakeholders. You've engaged them in such a way that you already know what you're talking about. But then you need to put it in writing to say, okay, this is the problem that we've identified, and this is the problem we want to solve. So yeah, these are just two ways to write your problem statement. There's so many ways you can write it, but these two ways are good templates on um, how to structure your problem statement. So again, I would say that if you're using your computer to join the call, please take a picture or take a screenshot because we're going to our activity now. But before then, let me talk about the second template. So there is a problem with dash current um, system or process, which is causing, then you say the impact, and this affects, we talk about the stakeholders and results in slash measurable or observable outcomes. So going back to the case study at the background that we talked about, this is where we want to draft our problem statement. So in the chat section, everyone, please, only a few people have been interacting, but it would be good if you actually get into it because this way you'd learn a lot from it. So in the chat section, can you please draft a problem statement using the template that I shared? I could actually leave it on the screen here if it'd be helpful, but hopefully you took a picture of the case study that I shared earlier, which is this company is facing this particular problem. This is what they're saying. This is the background. So now, this is what the stakeholders are saying. In your opinion, what do you think the problem statements would look like? So I'm going to give us 2 minutes. This is 2:40. 2 minutes to quickly think about it. Choose whichever template you want to use between these two. And know what I can do. I'm not sure if I can take a screenshot and put in. No, I don't think screenshots work. But are you there? Is anyone doing it? If you're doing it, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you, Oluchi. Who else is doing it? Is it just one person? Thank you. Okay, now I'm waiting.
Should we type it in the comment section?
Yes, please. That'd be nice. So you can use any of these two. this is the case study. This is the background that you need. Okay. 2 minutes. 2 minutes is past. Now, do you need more time?
Yes.
Okay. Mm, Okay, 1 more minute and then we'll move on. So this is the template. So if you've just joined, what we're trying to do now is crafting a problem statement for Hertz Solutions. This is the background, the background of the problem that they're experiencing at the moment, and the activity is to draft a problem statement. So I'm waiting for your comments in the comment section on what the problem statement. So these are some templates that we can use to draft a good problem statement. And I want you to note that a good problem statement does not blame anybody, does not blame a team, does not blame a person. It just shows what is wrong, who is affected, and why it matters. So are we making any progress?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So if you don't put it in chat, I'm going to call someone to unmute their mic and read it out loud to us. So please ensure that you're actually doing it. Okay. We've spent, thank you, Oluchi. We've spent 5 minutes on this activity and only one person has replied. So Oluchi there is a problem with the current onboarding process, which is causing repeated delays and frustration from multiple departments. This affects both HR, IT, new joiners, and managers. This is good. Thank you. Thank you, Toro. So there's a problem with the employee onboarding process, which is taking 3 to 4 weeks instead of the expected 5 days. This affects HR, IT, hiring managers, and new joiners, and results in manual delays, lack of system access, productivity loss, and a poor employee experience. That is good. This is brilliant. Thank you for sharing your problem statements. And what I like about this is really similar at the end, and that is because we're really addressing the core of the issue. So what I have here is there is a problem. There is a problem with the current onboarding process, which is causing delays of these days, these weeks instead of these days, and it affects these people and results in poor employee experience, reduced productivity, and frequent manual follow-ups due to lack of coordination and visibility. So thank you. Since accept this instructor. Okay. So the onboarding team is experiencing delay in employee onboarding as a result of delayed equipment shipping, manual task assignments, which is prolonging the time it takes to onboard new employees. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I'm glad to know that we understand how to craft good problem statements. So this is what it really, and it will help us to know, ensure that we're addressing the right things. We're not just pointing fingers and saying, no, this particular team is not doing what they're supposed to do. But we're addressing the right problem. So the second stage of after identifying the problem, who remembers? What's the next stage after identifying a problem and drafting a problem statement? What would you do next?
Investigate the root cause.
Investigate the root cause. Yes, identifying the root cause. Absolutely. Thank you. So this is simply identifying the underlying reason, the root cause. Why is this problem happening? It's the difference between treating symptoms and actually curing the problem. And it helps you ensure that your solution doesn't just address the surface issue, but the true source of inefficiency or failure. So at the end of the day, you have a solution that is not just, that will not fail after a particular period of time. Fail proof, that's what they say. A solution that would actually address what is causing the business to experience certain problems. And I have a small note here saying a symptom is what you see, but the root cause is why it is happening. So how do we get this done? The first thing is start from the problem statement. We already have the problem statement that we drafted from the first activity. So this is where you want to use it as your entry point and help you define, the real problem that you're trying to solve. And it will also help you to avoid chasing any irrelevant symptoms like we've discussed already. There are several techniques that you can use. There's the 5 whys. There's the fishbone diagram, Ishikawa. There's a process mapping, value stream mapping, interviews, and cross-checking. So these are different techniques that you can use to ensure that you're investigating the root cause. Which of these ones are we familiar with between these 5 techniques that we listed here? Have you come across 5 whys before? Fishbone diagram. Has anyone used the fishbone diagram before? Well, if you process mapping, great. Process mapping, yeah. Okay, you've used Edson, you've used fishbone diagram. Okay, so we're going to after starting from problem statement, you want to map the people and the process. The reason why it works is because it helps you visualize who is doing what is their role, what are the steps, where are the handoffs between each teams or individuals even, and then it will help you to understand, okay, help you to see visually, okay, this is what they're doing wrong, this is why there's a problem here, this is why there's a delay in this area. So mapping the people, so using probably like stakeholder maps, and then the process, and this gives you a bigger understanding of where the process is going wrong, where the flow is being affected. And then you want to, like I said, look at breakdown points. You want to pay attention to where there are delays, confusion, or rework frequently occur. Like there's too many cycles in that process. Then this will help you find out that, okay, this person probably needs more training, or we need to bring in this particular software to solve it. These are things that would actually help you gather the data, help you use evidence and logic to be able to validate what's really broken instead of just guessing or assuming. Now we're going to sorry, before we go into the next activity, I don't know why I'm so excited to get into the next activity. Then afterwards, you want to validate before you conclude. Check your findings using multiple sources. Find out that you've actually gathered the process from the right person. I'll give an example. So, the example I used earlier, I was working with a particular team, and the heads of the team already told me where the problem was, what the complaints from the stakeholders were, and I already had like an understanding of what the problem was, and so I organized one big meeting with all the members of the team, but I didn't get all the inputs I needed. So I sent out surveys and also requested some documents I could go through those documents to really understand their process. When we were done, I enthusiastically created a process flow diagram and said, okay, these are the stages that you have, these are the phases you have in your process, this is where you have handoffs with other teams. I was so excited. I presented it back to them. And I'm so glad I did that before signing it off, because some members of the team said, oh, that's not how the process works. And then that shocked me. And then we started to take it a step further. I stripped everything off and said, okay, you tell me, how does this process work? What is different from what I've already mapped? And this person started explaining to me what they do. And another person said, no, that's not how it works. So in the meeting, everybody, and then we ended up realizing that everyone had their own way of getting things done. And that caused problems. And that gave us like, okay, and then we were able to say that, oh, so this is really why stakeholders are complaining. It's not because you don't know what you're doing. It's not because things are not clear. You don't have the support or the system you require. It's just that everyone is doing things the way that they like. So you want to validate before you conclude. So now to the next activity. So this is the Ishikawa diagram, the fishbone diagram. We've discussed the problem statements. We already know that they are experiencing problems with the coordination and visibility across teams for the onboarding process. And on a high level, I've done some of the homework for you. But if you want to do this particular diagram, you want to use it, the first thing you want to do is identify a common theme in the feedback that you've gotten so far. So here we know that there's a problem with the people that are working together, the teams. There's a problem with the process, actual process. There are no clear handoffs and people are not working together well. Technology seems like they don't have one unified technology that everyone is working through that could notify them of when there's a new hire or something like that. I'm just thinking out loud. Communication sounds like there's communication problem. Policy and governance, maybe they don't have like something strict that the teams have to work with to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to do at the right time. And then this one here, I've answered 5 for you, remain 1. So what other underlying problem or underlying cause to this problem do we have? I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'll share another one because I'm going to move to the whiteboard. I'm going to share the whiteboard as well in the link. So if you have, can you see my screen? Yes, okay, good. So I'm only sharing it for you to be able to see it. Don't edit it yet. What I would prefer is, so that we don't move things around too much, what I would prefer is if you can call things up to me, then I'll type it in myself. But we have another one where all of us would go on the whiteboard. So please, if you do not have an account on Canva, this is a massive opportunity for you to do that. So I see that someone's already here. Thank you. So for our fishbone diagram, we've already identified 5 of these top line ones. Which other underlying cause do you think that they're experiencing? Let me copy some of the problem statements that we already have and put it here. So this is from SFDC instructor, what's your name, please?
Sorry, Tony.
Toyin. Okay. Hey, Toyin.
I was trying to rename, but there wasn't an option to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. So are we brainstorming? We have about 15 minutes for this particular one here. So I'm just putting a sticky note here for us to refresh our memories what the problem is. Okay. So does anyone have anything that you'd like to say? What other thing? Okay. Okay, let's leave this. If the idea comes in, please feel free to unmute your mic. So everybody please get ready to speak. So in your opinion, based on the problem statements that we have, what are the problems that these people are facing? What do you think is the root cause for the people area?
Delays,
What did you say?
delays on the process. So
Say what?
delays on the process.
Okay.
So
So what?
something that's expected to take 5 days is taking 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. So they're experiencing delays. Why do you think they're experiencing delays?
I think there's a fault on the system. I think there's lack of notification to notify where the process is standing at. So from the moment someone is hired, there should be kind of like a completeness process going on.
Okay.
So everyone, as part of that process, is notified and accountable to do their part.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So I've popped that in the technology area. That is absolutely correct. Who wants to go next?
I've identified one for the process.
Process. Okay.
Yes, the HR team said nothing is standard.
Okay.
So I think that should be or policy and governance, one of the two. I don't know where that would be.
Yeah, no, nothing is standard. That's absolutely right. I think we already have something like that here as well. Tasks are reactive, not standardized. Okay. Anybody else? What did you say, Amalade?
Decision making, like maybe delay or ineffective decision. I don't know how to put it, but it's just around decision making,
Okay.
when everybody have different ideas and back and forth.
That's right. Decision making is also delayed. Okay.
Also on communication, we can have that IT is being informed late about the new hires.
Okay. How about technology? Any other thoughts?
The new journal saying they started without a laptop or a system access.
Okay. So why do you think that happened?
Just fitted. Okay, IT was informed too late. That's the reason.
IT. And why do you
I'll
think IT
put that
was informed
down.
too late?
That's lack of communication.
Lack of
This
communication.
communication gap. Yes.
Okay. So there is a communication gap between.
Yep.
Do you know why there's a communication gap between teams? Anybody else can answer. I'm not just throwing the question at Oluchi. So why is there a communication gap between teams?
Can we say there's no proper standard or protocol for communication, so it's resulting in a gap?
Hmm. Okay. So okay, that is a good point. I'm just wondering where it would fit in. So let's keep it here for now. I'm just going to ask one more time. Why is there no standard protocol for communication?
I think because there's not a standard onboarding process in general.
No standard onboarding process in
No,
general.
no governance.
You know?
Okay. 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 That sounds exciting. Is there anything else?
The part where the managers are saying that the team loses like productivity for few weeks with every new hire.
Yeah.
That seems to me like it's taking like so much time to bring the new hire up to speed in the new team.
Okay. So where does that fit?
Um,
In the productivity loss, I feel like from new hires, I think probably there is no proper training to get the new hires familiar with the system or how they operate in the organization.
Okay. Okay. So the proper training. Sounds good. So where does that, where should we put that?
on
Process,
the
people
side,
side.
I think so.
Should they go on the people side? Do we all agree?
I think it could potentially be both. People in the sense that maybe the people administering the training are not doing it well, like tailored to the new employees, right? Or it could also be that the process is not capturing the essence of what they're expected to do, so it's not being effective.
Okay. So yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. So if you can fit both into people and process. Okay, let's keep it on the people side. So any other ideas?
On the technology side, they are still chasing tasks manually. So I think that should go to technology side.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a really good one. And I'll put one here. There is no integration between the HR system and IT systems. Let's say IT service desk or something. Any other?
I think there's no integration between the managers, the HR, and the IT, because we need to identify how the process of onboarding or hiring actually takes place.
Yes.
So is it the HR that's carrying out the entire process, or is it the hiring managers that are carrying out the entire process and then they have to inform HR that they just hired somebody new?
Yeah, that is right. That's something. So it sounds like they're working in silos. There's no
Yes.
collaboration between teams. Yes. Okay. Yes. So workers are not working as a team. There's departmentalization issues. This usually cause communication gaps and leads to delays. Absolutely. So they're not working as a team. As one, even though they're in different teams, they're not working as one team. So we can put that as like a bigger part of the saying the teams generally aren't collaborating. Okay. So do you think this gives you I can type. So do you think this gives you like a general idea of what's going on? Do you think we've kind of stepped into it? Or are there more things to uncover?
I think underlying cause, we haven't touched much on that.
Yeah. So this underlying cause is meant to be a question mark. You're supposed like you're meant to give me one underlying cause apart from this ones.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anything else jumps to your mind, please. So we've talked about no standard protocol for onboarding in general. Um, we've talked about chasing tasks manually. Talked about no integration between teams. Um, did we say anything about standard operating procedures? I think it also fits into trainings. Okay, okay. So how do you feel about this diagram that we've worked through together? And if to also know, actually, I'd like to find out when I was asking questions, what was one technique that you noticed that I used when trying to dig deeper?
5 whys.
5 whys. Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So even though you're using these techniques are not like you can always mix them together. The aim is you want to find answers. You want to ask the right questions. So actually, let's experiment with the 5 whys. Let's pick one of these and say, okay, I know you can still reuse some of the points here. Let's take experiencing delays on the process. I'm just going to use a new sticky note. So let's take experiencing delays on the process and say, on this particular point, we want to experiment using 5 whys. Can't type today for some reason. Delays on the process. Okay. So for the first why, what was the first why question? If we say why, what will be the response? So you're my stakeholders now, and I ask why. Why do you think they're experiencing delays on the process? We've talked about it already. We just want to hone down on that technique. Anybody? I'm going to call on Azuka. So why do you think we're experiencing delays on the process?
Okay, I would say there's no proper channel of communication.
Okay. Why is there no proper channel of communication? Who do I call now? Itoro. And then Muni, I'm calling you next for number 3. Peter, I'm calling you for number 4. So Itoro, are you there? Okay, I'll call Barakat. Barakat for number 2. Why do you think there's no proper channel of communication? Okay, let's quickly answer because of time.
I'm still thinking about it.
Okay, who wants to go? Edson, do you want to give it a try? Oh, Itoro. Okay.
I think it's because there is no centralized system or maybe platform for onboarding communications.
There's a centralized system. Okay. Okay. So why is there no centralized system? Winnie?
I'm still trying to figure it out. Maybe because um they don't have buy-in yet, or probably they don't have one yet. Can't figure it out.
Okay, okay. That's a good try though. Toby?
Okay. So I'll look at it like there's no centralized system of communication because um, the process is more of a manual process.
Mhm.
So today I can decide to make a call to the next department to have a new staff start your work.
Hmm.
Tomorrow someone else can decide to send an email, have a new staff. Then so if there's a mixture of those means of communication, of course, the person in the IT or the next department who is meant to do his or her task doesn't know. As when there's a centralized system, he or she just log into the system and look
Hmm.
at whatever is pending on his or her workflow.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Okay, we're getting there. So why is the process manual? I was going to call Peter for number 4. Peter, are you there?
Yeah, I would say maybe because if there's no system in play, is probably due to maybe lack of leadership structure. If there's no structure of how to do things, that will definitely come into place.
Okay. And the final why? Who would like to go for this one?
Can I try? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I feel that that is in place because there's no strategy. Because it's an organization like a flow, like a work, that's a workflow. So if there's no strategy, that determines the leadership structure, that determines the manual workflow and all that.
Hmm. That is
Yeah.
good. Absolutely. That is good. Thank you. Okay, so we're able to see that the reason why they're experiencing delays in the process.
Sorry, can I say something?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I just want to try, like, for the last one, can we say, okay, probably there's no strategy, or there is no rules or regulation guiding the organization itself.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Barakat. Thank you, everyone, for contributing to this. So we can see that sometimes if we are just stopped at saying that there's no proper channel of communication and we want to quickly bring in Slack or Microsoft Teams and say, okay, this is what you'll be using for communicating, we see that we won't have solved the real problem. And the real problem is there is no strategy. There is no proper, there's no goal that the organization is kind of working towards in that area of um onboarding new hires, which is brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move to our next um technique. So the next one after investigating the root cause is, who wants to try to remember? What's the next step? What's step number 3? Okay, it's identifying potential solutions. And this involves brainstorming. You know, you found out what the root cause of the problem is. How then do we address it? What are the best tools? What are the best ways that we can address it? So what you're doing is you're balancing feasibility. That is what will work, what can we achieve? You're balancing it with what the business goal is, and also with what the stakeholders, that is internal and external clients, what they really want, and ensure that you're not rushing for the first idea. You know how we did not settle for the first why? It's the same tactic here. The goal is to work with your stakeholders to use a structured way to come up with ideas on how we can actually improve or solve this problem that we're facing. Oh, I think there's an error on this one. Okay, I would. Okay. Anyways, so now with identifying the solution, there are several techniques that you can use. You can organize sessions, brainstorming sessions, and in your brainstorming sessions, just like what we've done today with the whiteboard, you can use tools like whiteboard on to gather information. So one thing that I always say, if you're organizing brainstorming sessions with your stakeholders, is first and foremost, identify the right stakeholders, identify the right people that need to be in the room. It's not everybody, because if you invite the wrong people, they would derail the session. Also know the the best way. So do you want a physical brainstorming session or virtual, or is it going to be hybrid? How is it going to work? You want to work it out even before the day. You want to send out your agenda to your stakeholders before the brainstorming session. The aim of this brainstorming session is not to decide on a solution, is to just come up with as many ideas as possible. So brainstorming sessions is just one of the many ways. The other thing you can do as a business analyst is research. What is the industry saying about this particular thing? What are the tools that other organizations are using, are leveraging to solve the problem that they are facing? Sometimes the answer to the problem is as simple as just training your staff. Sometimes it is as complex as re-engineering the whole process, that is scrapping it all and starting from ground up. And it could also be bringing in a new software, or which has happened to many times, or making a particular role redundant, and a particular person who is in a role redundant, and bringing in new staff so that they can take things forward. But you don't just jump into any solution. You want to ensure that your solution is the right solution. Working with your stakeholders to gather information, seeing what the industry is saying, and also putting side by side to say, okay, how does this actually solve our problems? So the next thing that we want to do is come up with ideas together. So let's go back to that whiteboard that we're looking at just now. This is going to be a very short one because of time. On the whiteboard, if you go on the link, you'll see sticky notes around here. And this map is called a mind map. There are several ways you can collect insights from your stakeholders in a brainstorming session. Please remember to use the right technique always. And the only way to use the right technique is just taking a moment to pause and think about your stakeholders. What will they prefer? What would work the best for them? I've gone into a meeting where I created a bureau board and asked people to join and brainstorm together. And they couldn't use it because they were not used to it. Some just preferred talking and talking and talking, while some actually preferred going on the mind map on the whiteboard to put in their thoughts. So you want to ensure that you're using the right technique to gather insights from your stakeholders. And there's something that goes on with people in the BA industry. They say that BAs are wizards. They're supposed to know it all. But it's a misconception. We're not supposed to know it all. We're just supposed to know the best way to get the solution out of the people that are already, they're already doing it. For example, if you call me as a BA, I work in a law firm. I don't know. I did not study law. I don't know anything about law. But what I know is how to best support the people that I work with to come to identify the solutions to their own problems. I give them the right techniques, the right data, what the industry, research that I found, bring all of those together and present it to them to say, okay, based on your expertise, you're the one engaging with the process. How best can we solve this problem? So I want you to go on the board now. We are all working for health solutions, don't forget. And we want to find out, based on the 5 whys, the fishbone diagram, things that we've been discussing, what are the things that you think we need to do to help them improve on their onboarding process. So who has an idea? Are you able to join the Canva board? If you're not able to join the Canva board, please just shout it out to me. You can unmute yourself and I'll type it in for you. So I'm just saying this. So reporting issues, problem of organogram, which makes problem difficult to easily identify and rectify. Yes, yes, absolutely. So how can we, okay, I'll just reshare the link. So how can we solve that problem of the reporting issues, not being able to escalate problems, the things that we've discussed so far? How can we?
Put a standard operating procedure in place.
Okay, so put a standard operating procedure in place. I think, oh, something's going on. Oh, I think it's locked for some reasons. Okay, okay, so put a standard operating procedure in place. What are the ideas? Anybody else?
Implement a centralized system to bridge communication gap.
So implement a centralized
Communication system.
communication system. But what if they come and say, oh, we already have emails, everyone is using emails. Emails are is an example of a communication system.
It could be the delays could also come from emails, because sometimes it could take people days or weeks to get around to their emails if they are so busy. So we can recommend a more real-time solution.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other person? Okay, we have someone type in here. Okay, so we have provide onboarding training for new hires. So if we want to achieve this, how are we going to go about it? How do we provide it? Who's going to be responsible? How do we ensure that we are providing this onboarding training for new hires? Any thoughts? I think one that's coming to my mind is maybe assigning people, specific people, to provide the training. So that way at least someone is owning it. Remember, one of the core things that we uncovered was lack of strategy. So how can we also ensure that the strategy is like, how can we, so let me go to it so that we can see it. Or actually move it here. Just lock this one so no one touches it. Okay. So remember we talked about no strategy, no rules. So what do we do?
Yeah, I think can I talk? I think for strategy documentation or formulation, we first need to. I think that's one of the jobs that the BA can do. You need to ask for what is the vision and mission of the organization, because that's when you can formulate strategy. So I believe we need first need to formulate that strategy first.
So the first thing to formulating strategy is defining
The vision and mission of the organization.
Okay.
That's if they don't have one in place.
Right. Okay. Or we could even streamline it more and say instead of the organization, it could be the vision, excuse me, the vision of the onboarding team. I don't know why. Just okay. So define, or we say define the goals of the onboarding team. Okay. Any more thoughts? We need to come up with a solution that we're going to be taking forward as an action.
Automate the hiring process.
That's really big. Automate the hiring process. So how do we automate the hiring process? What
They
part
can
of
see.
the hiring
They
process
can
are we-
see if they're not using any hiring systems. They can see what they can implement. Depend.
Okay.
It could also be that they don't have to use any other systems, such as, for example, Workday. They could just implement the process in ServiceNow, where people actually get notified to complete an action.
Okay. So if no systems are used for HR at the moment, the process can be built in ServiceNow. So ServiceNow is a system where IT teams used to manage their work, track tickets and their processes. I think it's called ITSM.
Yeah.
Yes. So ServiceNow is what they use to track all the requests and work that they need to do as a team. So that's ServiceNow. So you're saying that the process can be used in ServiceNow for them to automate notifications. Okay. Okay. That sounds good. So this is us using the mind map to gather information, right? And I'll say that when you are having an ideation session, brainstorming session, first capture live contributions. What does this mean? Don't discuss or judge ideas during capture. Keep the flow going. Ask follow-up questions, yes, but don't write off a particular point and say, no, we don't think this is a good idea. Let people, because what someone has put down would spark a question by someone else that would bring on more discussions and will help us actually see something that we could take away as an action. So from this mind map here, there are really good examples of things that we can do. So we can provide like an automated email to disseminate information if there's a new process. We can assign specific people to provide training when we're giving training to new hires. Also have implementing a centralized communication system. And in a way, it sounds similar to this one. It sounds quite similar to, it sounds really similar to this one here about building a new process for ServiceNow. And then there's also putting a standard operating procedure in place, defining the mission of the organization, the goals. So we've done all of these things. What do we do next? Just like I've mentioned, cluster, expand, and refine. Similar ideas, bring them together. Ask clarifying questions and also invite participants to vote or prioritize. If we had more time, we would have voted on the idea that we want to go for. And then the next one is end with a quick reflection. What stands out to you, or what do you think we should explore further? Because this is where you're going to actually get the solution that you want to validate and implement. And that takes us to the next step, validating and implementing your solution. You already have your solution. You want to first validate it. You want to first validate it. And this involves testing whether the options that you've discussed, the options that you've come up with are actually worth going for before you now, implement it and deploy it. So validate your the solutions, the options. Like now we've come up with talking about providing training, onboarding training to people, talk about centralizing communication, or maybe creating a process in the existing IT software to help the both teams work better together and get automated notifications. These are good ideas, but then will it solve our problem? Excuse me. That is where you would take the next step to ensure that you're not just building something that is right, you are building the right thing. And that's what validation is before implementation. Now, ways to validate your solutions. My favorite is pilot rollouts. But then we have prototyping, wireframing. We've had a webinar on wireframing once, where you can use Figma or Whimsical or I think Balsamic. So there are different tools you can use to create your wireframes, and your wireframes they don't have to look like the actual solution. It's just to give your stakeholders an idea of what they might be getting into. So prototyping and wireframing is a good skill. If you don't have it yet as a BA, please make sure that you do, because it really helps to be able to visualize the kind of solution that you're building for your stakeholders. Then playback or demo sessions. So what this is pretty much, let's say you've created a prototype or an example, a sample of the solution. Your demo session is to now present it to your stakeholders and say, okay, is this what we're doing? Are we going for it? It really helps you to get their buy-in or confirm shared understanding between the stakeholders and you that you're working on solution. There's also UAT. We know UAT is testing to ensure that our solution works for our end users, and pilot rollout. So pilot rollout is an interesting one, and we do it a lot in my organization. This is where we have a solution to a problem. We already say, okay, we think that this particular software is going to help us to improve this particular process. But before rolling it out to the wider organization, let's pilot with one team. Let's find out with one team if this particular system is good. Sometimes we've gone ahead to actually deploy that solution, and because it worked well, sometimes we've had to say to the suppliers, we're sorry, we've tested it, it doesn't work for us, so no, we're not going to be going ahead with this. And then the implementation checklist is how would I say it, is a document, not a document specific, depending on how you want to work with it. Temitope, you have a question?
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. Just to
No
so sorry to
problem.
pause you there. Now, when you talk about validation, after you have, conducted your brainstorming session, this validation you're referring to, the point I highlighted here, are they going to happen immediately after your brainstorming session? Or are you saying that after your brainstorming session, you will go to build with your developer and come back to do your validation? I'm just asking because I also believe that after the brainstorming session, there might be a need to play back your concession in terms of what you agree with the stakeholders. The
Yeah.
brainstorming session, does it mirror what we agree? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because the one
Yeah.
you're referring to now, I think it might be, I don't know. I'm just curious. I don't know if you want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
clarify that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, after your brainstorming sessions, so it depends on how many sessions you end up having. The first thing you want to do is that you want to ensure that your brainstorming sessions have given you at least one or two options to go with. So during your session, you might have come up with tons of different solutions or ideas that people think might actually solve the problem. or solve other problems even. But you would have prioritized, you would have, used all your techniques to say, okay, this is the best solution now to meet this particular problem. Or let's say these are the two options that we want to use to meet this particular problem. So then the next thing is not to jump into maybe buying the software if it's going to be like something that's off the shelf, or developing if you're going to be using in-house engineers. The next thing is to first play with the solution. I call it play because you're not building it, you're not running it out, they're not going to be using it straight away. But what you want to do is, for example, if you have in-house engineers, in my experience, before you say start working, because if you tell them to build the solution, first you've not even decided if it's going to be the best thing. You just have two options that you're going with. So you want to first find out from your stakeholders, should we go with this? Should we test out these options? Okay, now that we've selected these two, I'm going to use prototypes for this one, or we're going to do pilot rollouts for this one. So while the aim of all of these things is to keep how do I put it, is to just ensure that you're choosing the right solution, the right step ahead. You're not jumping to choose one of the two options. Maybe one of the options is, let's look at our fishbone diagram. Sorry, our mind map. So one of the options here is building a new process into the HR system, into ServiceNow, to automate notifications. Now, we're not going to say after this brainstorming session, that's what we're going to do. No. If that is an idea that we've collected and we've agreed that, okay, sounds like a good idea, let's put it down as one of our options. And then the other option, let's see, is let's say providing an automated mail to disseminate information across channels. So let's say we now say, okay, we have these two areas, and the problem that we're facing, let's see if maybe automating the emails for training would work, or actually putting in a new system in ServiceNow will work. How are you going to validate these two options? You could use prototype or wireframes to actually map out what the new process or what the screen would look like in ServiceNow for the HR team and how they'll be getting the automated notifications. Or you could pilot that email automation training for this one that we mentioned. Oh, not sure. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. I just noticed that it took. Okay, anyways, let's move on. You can also say for the automated email for trainings like we discussed, what would work is let's just say we'll not throw it to the wider organization. For new hires in finance and risk team, let us try the automations. Let's just do it for now. Let's see if it will work. So if it actually works and solves the problem, then that is a good thing for us. We go for it. If not, to scrap the idea. For the new process embedding HR into ServiceNow, after we've done the wireframes and we present it to our stakeholders to say, this is what the new process is going to look like. What do you think about it? And they say, yes, we like it. Well, then we'll adopt it as the solution to our problem before we now move into implementation and actually now implementing it. So with your example, the website developer one, they won't come in until implementation. Validation is you and your stakeholders testing things out to ensure that they are choosing the right things before the developers come in. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I don't know if I want to take a scenario, if that will help to clarify my curiosity. I don't know if
Okay.
you've got time. All right. Let's say, for example, you work with an organization.
Yes, just quickly.
Can you hear me? You work with an
Yeah,
organization
yes.
and they are identify a particular issue based on stakeholder feedback that on their portal now there's issue of I will say security issue. Now when you are on a portal
Okay.
and you are a bit, maybe you are on a portal and you are carried away or you need to attend to something and you let your system idle. Now maybe perchance you have visitor or friends that come around use the same system And because you are out of the system and your portal, you are still acting on it. Now, when your friend or maybe your sibling click on back or forward button on several occasions, now they are able to access your portal, for example. Now, this is a risk to a large extent. Now, if
Yeah.
you're a business analyst in that scenario and
Mm.
you have conducted a brainstorming session, there have been maybe suggestions here and there. Now, how
Yeah.
do you intend to validate the solution if that sits well with you? I don't know.
So you said after you've done the brainstorming session and you've already come up with ideas. Sorry, because it was breaking a little bit. How do you then validate
Okay,
in that situation?
exactly. They have identified
So
different things, security issue, data breach, and all that. And maybe some solution has been recommended. How do you now validate such, a solution that has been recommended before you start building? Yeah.
okay, okay. Yes, okay. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a really good question. So in this kind of scenario, we'll definitely be bringing the dev team because they're the ones. So the technique I would want to use in this scenario is maybe UAT because even if they implement anything, we want to first test it out before rollout. Do you understand? Want to first test it out to find out does it actually solve the problem of the security. So the dev team would present the options to them. They would prioritize based on their resources, expertise, and say, okay, this is the first one that we want to try out, and then they work on it. They come back to you, and then you can now validate. Get a small group of users, or even yourself, go on the front end to that end users are seeing, and then try it out. So that is the user acceptance testing. So you can still validate using that method. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
pretty okay. Yeah,
So
that's one
so
of them.
once you validated, you've checked it, or your users have checked it, then you can go back to the dev team to say, okay, this works for us. Before um they now roll it out to everyone, all the end users that will be using the system. So that's how that particular scenario would work. Okay, so we have less than 15 minutes at the end of the webinar, but we have I'm going to send this quiz at the end just because of time. So it'll be two quizzes that I would want you to fill in, 3 questions each. Um, this one for validating and implementing a solution, and then the next point, which is measuring results. So we've talked about um identifying the problem, drafting a good problem statement. We've talked about investigating the root cause using techniques like 5 whys, the fishbone diagram to dig deeper, understand why a problem is happening. We've also talked about identifying potential solutions, brainstorming, using different, you could brainstorm, you could prioritize options, you can research the industry, go online to see what other organizations are doing or what other tools are there that you could be exploring. And after you have some ideas that you've generated, then you want to validate those ideas using some techniques, like I said, prototyping, user acceptance testing, piloting your ideas, and so on. Then implementing it. Implementing is where you actually do the work. Implementing is where the dev team or the main team involved in implementation, that's where they do the real work of they've selected the solution, they're rolling it out to stakeholders. Now we come to measuring results. What does this mean and why is it important? Measuring results um is where you is where okay, yeah. So this is where you go look back to see how well have we done. And a lot of people find it is the fifth point because you're going to do it after you've implemented the solution. But when the real work of measuring the success starts is at the beginning. And this is what I mean. You want to first define success early. And this is going to help. This is how you would measure your success before the implementation begins and also after you've rolled out. This is where you set expectations, you ensure that you're solving the right problems, and you're putting the right metrics in your put using the right metrics to measure how well your solution is doing. Second thing is choose meaningful metrics. It's not so there's so many things that you can do to measure your success. Let me say now, in my organization, one of the things I built into the process for BAs to do is adoption reviews. So it was existing before I joined, but it was kind of all over the place. So what I did was to structure it. So what's adoption reviews? We often implement new software, new new systems that teams are using, and with implementation with support as BAs. But then how do we ensure that this software is we're not wasting money while we've actually put in the right software for people? 3 months to 6 months after implementation, I then schedule meetings with my with stakeholders or project team members or even end users sometimes. So ask questions like what are the benefits that you've gotten out of this particular solution? What are the things that you think that you've saved in terms of time? Is there anything? And people often come up with saying, "Oh yes, thank you. We've actually the automation really worked. We don't have to spend too much time on this and that." And the only way for us to be able to quantify it is if we've set those goals in the beginning. So I do it to help myself. I put it in my requirements documents as KPIs or metrics that this particular project is going to will be measured by after implementation, so that we are going to reflect on the impact of the work we're doing, not just the activity, not just the check boxes, but the real impacts that we have achieved with each project. You want to also track and compare the results. You want to first understand what were they doing before, how much time were they using to complete this task, how much time are they using to before, but how much time are they spending on it now? With with the company that we're working with today, if they are facing these problems, these are things: manual work, no communication. These are things that they're so we already have one baseline data, which is instead of 5 days, they're doing 3 to 4 weeks. 6 months later, we're going to come back and discuss with the stakeholders, with the managers, with the HR team, IT teams, and say, you were spending 3 to 4 weeks on onboarding before. How many weeks are you spending now? Or how much time are you spending now? Then they say, oh, thank you so much. We spent 6 months and now we're within 1 week, things are being resolved. That is success. Even though we've not reached the mark of 5 days, or let's say they say it's now 7 days, we know that that's a success. And the only way we're able to track that is because we already collected the data of how long it was taking initially. And then keep gathering feedback from your users. If you're working in a very large organization, it might be difficult to keep track of the work you're doing, but it's very important because that way you're able to understand, even if this is a solution that is working well for you, how best can we even further improve it. So, for example, I was working on a project where we were implementing a new what's it called now? The internal. What was the word? It's just gone off my head. The internal websites that only people in your intranet. Yes. So we're implementing a new intranet, and I met with the project team about 6 months after the implementation, and I asked them, I said, how is it going? Do you like, what are people telling you? You're the main team, but it's for the whole organization. But what are people telling you? What are the feedback that you've gotten from people regarding this new intranet? Are they enjoying it? Are there any problems? And they had so much to say. They were like, oh, the project team worked really well with us. We've saved a lot of money on this particular thing. This is going well. But then I was able to also ask them more questions like, what are the challenges, or are there any areas that we can actually even improve this better? And it's like, yes, actually, Microsoft has this particular feature. People are not really using it well, but we think it can give the organization more value. And then we took that forward as task and say, okay, you know what, we're going to work with this to see how best people can even use the solution. So that's why it's very important for us to measure. And remember, I said it starts early. It does not start at the end. So it's not when your solution goes live, or like I said, it does not have to be a system. It can be a new process, or it can be changing someone, changing, like moving roles around. If there was, maybe you're working in a company where they don't have particular role, maybe they don't have someone that is a risk manager, but there's need for a risk manager to solve that problem, then you're going to be employing a new risk manager. But you still need to gather the data before the person is hired, to say, okay, before we brought this new person, this is what was going on, but this is what we want to be achieving. These are the goals that I want to achieve now that we brought this person. 6 months after the person that has started working, you want to be able to say, okay, we brought this person in and this person actually achieved this, and that, but there's still room for improvement. So that's why measuring success is very important, and it is good for you to start very early. So we've come to the end of my story, long story. We're going to have, I'm going to share the links to the quiz in the chat section. And I'm also going to send it to the community. So if you've not joined the BSFAIR community, please, this is your opportunity to join us now. So I'm going to leave the floor open for questions. Does anybody have any question for me today? Aluchi?
I just wanted to ask, the fishbone diagram that you drew, was it on Canva you drew it?
Yes, it was on Canva. Canva has like different templates, so you can just choose the best one.
Oh, okay. All right.
Any other question?
Just to ask, the slide that you produce and the video I don't know if this will be available.
Yes, so I'm going to be sharing it to the community after this call.
Okay.
After the meeting. So yes, so like I said, this is another opportunity, for everyone to join the community. I'm going to send the link in the chat just for whoever has not joined the community. Thank you very much, Toyin. I'll just pin this up. Okay. So this is the link to join the community if you haven't already. And I'm going to send the links to the quizzes. So this is to check your knowledge on what we've kind of touched on today. Does anybody have any questions? No one's saying anything. Thank you, Lucia and Tim Tope. Thank you, Edson. All right, so if we do not have any other questions, I guess that is us for today. I've really enjoyed engaging with everyone, talking about the different, steps to problem solving. Thank you very much. So like I said, if you haven't joined the BSFAIR community, please join. Toby, you have a question?
Yes. So I just want to ask that there are some tasks that are more of qualitative rather than quantitative. So how best, or what's the best approach to actually measure successes in those tasks?
So can you give an example? Give an example to work with.
Okay. Okay, so there are instances where as a staff of an organization, you relate majorly with regulatory bodies or regulatory authorities. Let's say bank, for instance, in order to get your customers' work going. So as a bank customer, I've I've written to the bank, I need this tax to be done. But before the bank can go ahead, they need the regulatory approval to go ahead with your request. So of course, the delay is not coming from the bank, it's coming from the regulator. I've written, so I'm waiting for the approval. And over time, it's always as if you, the desk officer, you are not doing your best. Someone else come, because there are times, maybe by chance, someone else come during those periods, the regulatory authorities, they responded well. Then when you return also from the beginning, let's say you were on that desk January to March, things were going slow. Someone else came in around April. It was that period the regulatory authorities were responding maybe quite okay, not really fast. Then by the time you return in May, it continued that way. Then maybe by August, September, the regulatory bodies, they started going back to their old ways. So at that point, as a BA, if you are brought into the situation, okay, what's the best way? Because for me, what I'm saying is that, okay, I don't have control over this, so I feel helpless. So what's the best approach in such situation?
Okay. So it feels like two questions in one, but I'll try to
Yes.
answer it in best where I can. So in terms of measuring success where it is not well defined, so not everything has to have a number or a percentage or an amount. So if the metric you're going for is customer satisfaction, then you can explore it more. If it is emotions, let's say stakeholders are angry, but what you want is for stakeholders to be happy. There's no way to put numbers to it, but you can pretty much document it as, okay, stakeholders are not happy with the way they are working at the moment, but we want them to be happy with their work. How do we then do it? So your responsibility as a BA is to kind of uncover the layers. So if I have a situation, I'm going back to your question. If I have a situation where it's I'm dealing with a problem that it is not something that I can directly influence, what I would first say is, number one, focus on what you can control. What are the things you can control within your own organization that you think might help the external bodies, external stakeholders to do their part well? The other thing is, what I would do is try to make it transparent to the client so that they know that it is not on you. And that way they could also explore ways that they could liaise with the regulatory body if that is something that is within their scope that they can do. So make it as transparent as possible. The other thing is, because I don't want to solutionize now with this question that you've asked. I'm trying to step back from solutionizing, but I think what is important is engaging with your external stakeholders and the regulators, engaging with them, asking questions, find out how best you can relate with them that could also help them. So what I would say is, okay, they're the external people, they're the one causing the problem, but then how best can I engage with them? What are the things that I can help that I can do that will also help them in ensuring that they're doing what they're supposed to do at the right time? But what's important is you're engaging both stakeholders well. You're the middleman, you're the bank, you're being transparent to your clients to let them know we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. This is just what we're waiting for. You're not just keeping quiet and going MIA. And then the other thing is, that's why measuring is important, because if you now find that let's say we've already improved on something, 3 months or 6 months late afterwards, they've gone back to the way they're doing it, then you need to see that as a problem in itself. So the problem has changed from them not doing what they're supposed to do to them relapsing. So then you now start to analyze how best can we support them, so that at least we now know that they have the ability to actually do things right. But how can we support them that in a way that they will not be relapsing? So your question at the beginning will be different from the question at the middle, because now you said that, okay, at the beginning you're trying to say, well, how can we help you? But now you know how you can help them. They know what they're supposed to do, but they're just relapsing. So the question changes. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So always revisiting your techniques. Like, of course, we have plenty of things that we can use or we can do, but stick to it, but don't stick to it. That is, stick to it, use the right techniques, but don't just sit back and say, okay, this is what I used the first time. I'm not going to change it and use the second time in that area. And for measuring things that are quantitative, I would say that say it as it is, call it out as it is, write it down. If you're not able to put a number to it, you can still compare with results by saying that before this and this and this was the situation, but now this and this is the situation. And that way it will be easy for you to report back to even senior management to say this is what this project or this particular solution has achieved for us. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've come to the end of today's webinar, and so someone has asked for the recording. So we usually, the recording will be available to community members, and we'll be sending it out within the next week, so that you would have access to it and be able to watch it. I'll also be sharing the handbook. I realized that there were some errors on the I said handbook, the slides, so I'm going to fix that and also share it with the to the community. But thank you everyone for your time today, and I've really enjoyed this session. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye everyone.
Thank you.